let's go ahead and dive in. So I actually did myself download the example file that's there online, and I unzipped it onto my desktop, and I've got I'm going to go ahead and start up the screen share, and I'll show you, and we'll get everything open to start with. So share screen, there it is. All right. I have so many windows open for this all the time. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. So this is my Windows Explorer. I'm using a computer with Windows 10, but if you're on another type of computer, if you're on a Mac, then you'll use the Finder instead of Windows Explorer for obvious reasons. So here in Windows Explorer, I'm going to find, we're going to start with the file called desertflowers.docx. Go ahead and double click on that, if you would. That'll open that right up. And then Word should open up. Let me switch the screen share a little bit so that so y'all can see Word instead. And what I would do is just leave that Windows Explorer window open, because that way you'll be able to get back to it, because we'll need the other files in the folder there, eventually during the course of the class. Okay, cool. So when I do that, Word opens right up, and it gives me, it shows me the file, which is a document that, well, it's actually part of a public domain book created by the Parks Service back in, I want to say, the 50s, about flowers of the Southwest deserts. So this is the document that we're going to be playing around with for the first portion of the class. So what I want to do here, though, you'll notice there's something's happening here. It says protected view. Be careful, files from the internet can contain viruses. If you see something like this when you open it up, you may have to click enable editing in order to get everything the way you want it to be. For some reason, mine has opened up with this two-page spread situation. If you've got something like this, go ahead and head up to the View tab up at the top. Click on View there, and click on One Page, so that way we get kind of a more normal view. And because of the session the other day, looks like I still have my formatting marks on. So there on the Home tab, I'm going to click on Home, and I'm going to click the little formatting mark button, the paragraph button there. So that way I get just the words and not any formatting marks to confuse the situation. So we should have something like this. I'm also going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit just to make it a little easier to see what's going on. Down here at the bottom, I've got this little slider. I can drag this bar back and forth to zoom in and out, like so. Just hold down the mouse button and drag it in like that. Or I can use the plus and minus on the sides there. Go ahead and just hit plus a few times. That's pretty good. Okay, great. All right, so we've got a nice big view of the situation. And I'm gonna actually, now that I'm thinking about it, open up a couple of little windows in my Zoom so that way I can make sure I see if people chat to me or anything like that. Awesome. Okay, great. So here we are. We've got our cover art, Flowers of the Southwest Deserts by Nat in Dodge, drawings by Jeannie R. Janish or Janish, who knows? All right, so what I'm going to do is scroll down a little bit and start at the top here. Okay, let me walk you through kind of the order what we're going to be working on today. I want to first touch on, well, I want to first dig into what we call styles. So basically, styles, well, actually, I'm just going to give you the outline, then I'll dig into what that is. So we're going to talk about styles first, basically making your document look nice and making it more readable. So that's some pretty handy stuff. Once we're done talking about styles, we're going to move on to collaboration and review. So if you're working with someone else, then there are tools that you can use in Word to kind of to get your document to be the or to make it easier to work with those other folks and either edit for someone or have someone edit for you. You know, get feedback, see what what people have done in the document, and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk about mail merges. Mail merges are basically a way to make your document to create one version of the document, but have it personalized to each recipient who's going to get a copy of it. So pretty cool. So here we go. We're going to talk about formatting, styles, themes, and all of that good stuff. So to make that work, we've got our, kind of to start out with that, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to, well, okay, let me show you this. First of all, I've got this little spot here. It says how to use this booklet. I'm going to select that with my mouse. So I'm going to hold down with the mouse button and just drag over it until it's highlighted, just like we did at the beginning of last week's session, basically, or last week, Tuesday's session. Once I've got that selected, I want to look up here at the top. And basically what you'll see is there's a whole section of the Home tab. If you're not seeing these, you may have to click Home up here at the top in order to get there. But the Home tab is where you where you go to find these styles. Basically, the idea behind this is a couple of things. If you've ever gotten a document where you've had a big wall of text and it's been hard to read or it's felt a little bit overwhelming, these tools are designed to sort of combat that. Excuse me. Also, sometimes you'll run across a document where somebody sat down at their computer, they had something to communicate, they wrote all the stuff they intended to write, but it doesn't look very good. It kind of, it's just kind of blah, honestly, and it's not very interesting to read. It doesn't really hold your attention. And sometimes you get a long way into a document and you kind of like lose track of where you are. If you came back later on, you might go like, where was I in this? Was I on page 6 or page 8 or what's going on here? So styles are designed to combat all of those problems, basically. They will make they'll make your document more readable. They'll make it look nicer, a little more attractive, which could seem superficial, but honestly, people are more likely to read a document that looks nice. And so it's a powerful way to ensure that your message gets across a little bit better. It helps your audience orient themselves inside the document, find the information they need quickly, and not get overwhelmed or, as they try to tackle the whole document. So it's really, really handy. So I'm gonna show you that. Okay, so I've got this selected. What I'm gonna do is come up here to the Styles section, and I'm gonna click on Heading 1 right here. When I do that, you'll notice what my text does. Now, before I had text down here that was in Times New Roman, 12-point font, and no particular additional flair added to it. If I click here though, you'll see now I've got the text is centered rather than aligned left as it was before. The text is in bold. It's still in Times New Roman, but now it's size 24 rather than size 12 like it started out. So, so what this has done is give me a nice section header because the first section of this document, of course, is how to use this booklet. Let's scroll down a little bit and let's find another section heading here. Okay, this one is plant names, and then kind of a subheading or subtitle, I guess, be serious about plant names, but not too serious. So again, I'm going to click here, drag and select the whole thing. Got an extra little space there. I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to drag and select this whole line where it says plant names, come up here, and again, click heading 1. That's going to center my, my text again, change it to Times New Roman, 24-point size, and bold it. And by the way, you'll notice there's a little bit more space above this to separate this section a little more clearly from the previous section up here at the top. Now where it says be serious about plant names, but not too serious, it's kind of like a subtitle or a subheading. So I'm going to select that while I'm here. And I'm going to come up to the top. When I look at this, nothing quite does the trick. And so there's actually there are some other options that are not on my screen right now. What I'm going to do is come over here, and there are some arrow buttons. If I click this down arrow button right here, then it's going to just give me a whole new set of options there. If I click this one, which kind of looks like an eject button on a VCR back in the day, if I click on that thing, then it's going to give me a whole menu with all of the options and some additional ones such as create a style, clear formatting, and apply styles, which we'll talk about some of that here shortly. So as I move my mouse over these, you'll notice there are a bunch of different options that I have available, and it'll give me a little preview of each one as I go along. So, so I can sort of, so I can see, okay, what do I think about, you know, what do I think about these, the looks of these different options? So I'm going to go with subtle emphasis. That's a pretty good one. So I'll click on that, and that gives me a little, that tells me like, okay, this is not a separate section heading. I didn't, you know, there's nothing left out here, but this is not part of the main text of my document. So in this case, switching it to subtle emphasis leaves my text as Times New Roman in 12-point font, but now it's italicized, and you'll notice it's turned gray. It's not plain black text anymore. It's a little bit gray now. So that sets it off visually from the rest of what we would call the body text of the document. Let's keep going a little further. All right, there's another one, the desert. What and where is it? So again, I'll come up here. That one's heading 1. All right, national parks and monuments as wildflower sanctuaries. Select it, hit heading 1 again. And then desert plants, heading 1. And finally, acknowledgements down here on page 8, heading 1. Cool. So you'll notice as I do this, and I had my, I don't remember whether this was up there initially, maybe not, but over here on the left is the navigation pane. If you don't see that on your screen, I'll show you how to get there. It's pretty easy. All you need to do is come up here where it says find, the little magnifying glass right here. Again, I'm on the home tab. Click on the drop-down arrow, and well, actually you can just click find right there. That'll take you to this, and you'll see down here, and it should pop that navigation pane right up for you on the side. You'll notice down here on the navigation pane, we've got all of our headings that we just created here listed out for us. And when I click on one, it goes straight to that section of the document. So this makes it easier for people who are looking at your document to navigate around. And even you, if you're in the middle of writing something and you're like, oh, I need to go back to the such and such section, you can just open up this navigation pane and click on the section that you want to work on, and it'll take you straight there. Another thing that you can do while you're working with this is you can actually come over here and click this arrow next to any of these section headings. What that's going to do is, when I click on it, collapse the section. So the text is still there, but since I've collapsed it down, I've basically gotten it out of my way. If I'm done with this section, I don't really want to stare at it. Or if I'm super not done with this section, but I don't need to focus on it right now, I can kind of hide it away so that I can take, each part that I want to work on at a time. So as I'm scrolling down, I now see I can just scroll straight through that section and not have to worry about it at all. And that makes it a lot easier for me to navigate, again, to exactly where I want to be. For your readers, this is really helpful. Number one, each heading will give them little signposts as to where they are in your document. Particularly if it's a longer document, that's important because they're probably not going to read it all in one sitting if it's long enough. It also sort of helps, it helps to just break it down in chunks, because if it's broken down if a document is broken down that way, then people are less likely to get overwhelmed and go, what? I have 10 pages of just straight text. They can say, oh, okay, well, there's 5 sections and they're about 2 pages each. That's not too bad. And it makes it look nicer and more polished. So if you're trying to project a professional impression, or you're trying to communicate something really, really important and you need people to pay attention, then having a really polished looking document helps a lot. You could do this manually. So if I wanted to put headings in there, there's nothing stopping me from just writing the desert, what and where is it, and then centering that, bolding it, making it the appropriate size, and and adjusting the spacing as needed. But there are a couple of problems with that. Number one, it's a lot of work, because if you do that, you're going to have to do it every time that you create a new section, or else you're going to have to, this is another little thing to just point out for you, you're going to have to make the changes, write the rest of that section or whatever. And then when you get to the next section, you type out the text that you want, and then you come up here, and then you have to, let's say that I've got these, let's go to the bottom and just say I'm creating a new section here. New section. Okay. All right. So I've got my section heading here, but I want it to look like all the other section headings. If I've done this manually, then what I'm going to do is select some of this stuff. Come up here, click on what's called the format painter on the left. And then I'll highlight this. And what that's going to do is it'll at least change some of what I needed to change. So it made the text larger. It's 24 point. It made it bold, which is great. But it actually didn't change the spacing the way that I wanted it. And it didn't center it as I would have expected. So if you're like, okay, I've got this little bit of text and I need another little bit of text to look the same, you can use the format painter to just do that ad hoc a few times. But with styles just make it easier, and they make it easier to stay consistent. So if I didn't notice that it wasn't centered, or if I didn't notice that the spacing was wrong, that's the more likely thing. I could do this with the format painter and then I keep going, but up here I've got tons of extra space. Down here, I don't have a lot of extra space between this section and the next section. If I didn't notice that, then my document would look inconsistent, at the end, and it would be, and then I'll have to kind of play whack-a-mole with, with formatting problems, basically. If instead I use styles, then I can just click heading 1 every time I have a new heading, and we're good to go. Also, when I press enter here, it's going to take me down. It's still going to keep this same style. So all I need to do to make it match the rest is go to normal here. Normal is going to be the style for the body text of your document. So the rest of it. Cool. So, so this makes it easier to stay consistent and makes it look nice, makes your document easier to navigate. Just all around, very extremely useful. Let me show you a couple of other things about this. Now, if you have kind of sections and if you have like headings, like and subheadings and subheadings and so forth, like some people have a more complicated document structure. That's totally fine. And this styles thing can accommodate that. What you want to do is, as we did, start with heading 1. Heading 1, those are your main headings inside of your document. So, so the primary, the big sections of your document. If you want a subheading, what I'm going to do, this time I'm going to do it slightly differently. Rather than type the text and then apply the style to it, what I'm going to do is come down here and I'm going to select the style beforehand. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to click heading 2. When I select the heading 2 style, it looks like it centered it, it changed the spacing some, and now there we go. We now have a subsection called a subsection. Press enter again, hit normal, and then you can keep going. And you'll notice over here in the navigation pane too, that I have a new section and then it's now collapsible or expandable, and nested inside that and indented here is a subsection. So I can even see that document structure here in the navigation pane. We're not going to dig into this, but I will say also, if you're writing a pretty long document and you want a table of contents, if you click on the references tab, there's actually a table of contents option right here, which will use your headings and subheadings and so forth to generate an automatic table of contents, which is really cool. Very handy for longer documents. Let's see. So, those are the styles. Oh, let's add a couple more things. I'm going to go up to the top, scroll up. By the way, if you want to get to the top of a document, I'm used to doing things with the mouse just because it doesn't baffle people as much, but there's a nice little keyboard shortcut if you're on a Windows computer. To get to the top of a document, hold or do Control Shift Home. Control Shift Home. So no, just Control Home. I apologize. Control Shift Home will actually select everything from your cursor upwards, like Control Shift, whoops, Home. See, it selects all of this text here. But Control Home will actually go to the beginning of a document. Control End, as you might imagine, will actually go to the end of the document. And then regular Home and End will go to the beginning and the end of the line that you're on. So that can be really handy. Anyway, Control Home. Okay, so here at the top of the document, I've got my title right here. And it is kind of in a slightly different style. But I actually want to mark it as the title with styles as well. So I'm going to select it, click on title up here, and then it conforms to the title style that I have up here in the home tab. And we'll go ahead and add the author and illustrator information too. So let's see. Let's go emphasis and emphasis. There we go. Yeah, that's good. All right. There's some interesting stuff going on with these formats too. Let's say that you are, or with these styles, let's say that you like this, you know, generally the way it looks, but you want to use a different font. Oh, someone asked in the chat, how do I go to the beginning of a line again? So all you need to do is, so from anywhere on a particular line of text, just press the home key on your keyboard. If you've got, if you're on a full size keyboard, then it's above the arrow keys. If you're on a laptop, it'll still probably be somewhere near the top. Depending on how your keyboard is set up, you might have to press like the function key at the bottom. On my laptop keyboard, I have to press function, the little FN key, and then the left arrow in order to use the home button. But so it depends on your keyboard. And that also makes it really complicated if I wanted to use that shortcut that I just told you about. If I want to use that on my laptop keyboard, I have to go Control Function left arrow in order to use that. So it can get a little hairy depending on your keyboard layout. But yeah, home goes to the beginning of a line, end goes to the end of a line. Thank you. Good question. Glad you asked. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So let's say I like this, but I want it to be a different font. If so, no big deal. What I'm going to do is select this text right here, how to use this booklet. And I'm going to go and change it. Let's see. I'll click on the drop-down menu and let's say I want it as oh, I don't know, whatever. I'm just going to choose a font. This one is Berlin Sans FB Demi. I don't know what half that stuff is supposed to mean, but this is the font. May not be on your computer. If not, don't worry about it, honestly. Okay, so I've changed the font to be something different. But now, of course, it's inconsistent with all my other headings. So I want to make that consistent. Thankfully, I don't have to go through and find all of the headings and change them manually like I did with this first one. Now that I've changed this, what I can do instead is come up here, find heading 1, click on it with the right mouse button. So right click. If you're on a laptop, by the way, and you're using a little touchpad, trackpad thing, on most laptops, you can tap with 2 fingers to do the same thing as a right click with the mouse. So that's pretty handy. So tap with 2 fingers rather than 1, and you should get the same thing that I'm getting. Some keyboards also have a button that'll do it too. Anyway, all right. So I right click on heading 1, the style that's already applied to this, except that I've changed. And when I click update heading 1 to match selection, then what it does is every single place that you see, every single place that you have a heading 1, it's been changed to match the text that I had selected at the time I clicked that. And you'll notice it even shows you a little preview of it now. You'll see that font up there rather than Times New Roman like it was before. So that can be really useful because if you decide to change your style halfway through the document, you don't have to do you don't have to hunt down every single heading and change it to be what you want it to be. You can just select one with the mouse and change it that way. You can also manually modify the styles directly. So let's say with this title, if I right click on title up here and I click modify, what it's going to do is give me a little box, a little dialog box. That's the phrase I was looking for. That allows me to change the style directly. So this is a little preview of what it looks like right now. If I come over here and I click on and I change, let's say I wanted that to be Berlin Sans FB Demi, maybe underlined. I'll make those changes. And then and by the way, if there's more stuff you want to tweak, like spacing and all sorts of things, you can click this format button down here, and it'll give you a drop-down menu with just everything you could possibly change about the text. You can go way overboard with it if you want to. But I made a few changes. I'm going to click OK. Now that I've done that, there's my title, updated automatically to match the changes that I made to that style. Pretty cool. So let's see. I'm trying to think if there's, you can create completely new styles. If you click create a style here, you can basically go in and define everything. Or you can make the changes in the body of your document. Let's add a little shadow. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is red text with a shadow behind it. If I come up here, click the drop-down arrow and click create a style, then it's going to use that. It's going to use the style of the text that I have selected, and I can call this red with shadow or whatever. If I want to change something about it, I can click modify here, but I'm not going to. I'll just click OK. And now I have another style called red with shadow that I can apply anywhere else I want with one click. Super easy. So that's styles, but you also have some other things that can use styles to make more radical changes to your document all at once. Let me show you what I mean. What I'm going to do is come over here to the design tab. You might find it might be called something slightly different if you have an older version of Word, like page style, or I don't know, page design or something. It'll be something like that. But essentially, when you click on the right tab, whatever it's called, it should show you a bunch of options here like this. What this is, you'll notice this is all in a document formatting section here. What this is a, well, specifically what these things are is what we call style sets. Style sets are a group of styles, like we saw back on the home screen, that basically a group of styles that you can select or queue up for yourself. So let's see. Let's go here. Okay. So let's say that I go with, okay, this style set is called lines, and then in parentheses, simple. When I click on that, you'll notice my document has changed pretty significantly. If I go back over to the home tab, I can see, so the body text, rather than being Times New Roman 12-point size, is now 10.5 as the size and Calibri as the body or normal font. Down here, Calibri Light is the heading font. And headings, rather than being centered and bold, are now in blue. They have this this kind of underline, or actually, I think this is part of a border, or I think this is a bottom border under this heading paragraph. So there's a blue line underneath the header. It's aligned to the left rather than centered. It's blue. It's in Calibri Light. It's 18-point size rather than 24 like our old headers were. Subtle emphasis has changed a little bit. Rather than Times New Roman, we now have Calibri 10.5, but it's still gray and it's still in italics, and so on and so forth. Our title style has changed as well. So just by choosing a different style set over here on the Design tab, excuse me, you can change things pretty significantly in terms of the look and feel of your document. If I click this down arrow, you can see all the different built-in style sets. There's also one under a heading called This Document right here. That's my previous style set that I created. If I want to save that, I can right-click on it and click Save, and it'll actually stay there on this computer so that when I open up a new document, I can use the exact same style set if I want to. That's pretty cool. Style sets themselves are part of what we call themes. So themes are, let me show you. Let me click on this themes button on the left-hand side. What that does is it gives me a drop-down menu where I have a bunch of different themes available. All of those are under the heading of Office because they came built into to Windows and Office. And basically what the themes have a few, well, inside each of the themes, they have style sets like this. So I believe this is the Office theme right now. If I switch it over to, let's say, this one called Organic, I'll click on that. And you'll notice all my style sets that I have access to here on the tab change. And so now when I click on, let's see, there's still one called Lines Simple, but now it's different. Instead of Calibri, it's using Garamond as the heading font, and then and as the body font as well. And it's different colors. So I've got this green rather than the blue, and so yeah, that again changes it quite significantly just by changing that theme. And I get other style sets that are related to that. The themes are basically made up of, really you define a theme in Word by colors, fonts, paragraph spacing, and effects. So when I click on colors here, it's going to give me a list of different color schemes. And I could choose one of these color schemes rather than the one that's built into the organic theme. So the one built into the organic theme is gray, green, that's dark blue, I think, maybe, red, this orange, and kind of like a pale orange. But if I click on this colors option, I could choose like, I could choose sort of a, this one that's violet too. If I choose that, then it's going to apply that color scheme instead. I can click on this, and I can also click Customize Colors to define my own color scheme if I want to. So themes are built from colors, fonts. So the particular fonts that are associated with this theme, organic, well, the particular font only seems to be Garamond for both headings and like the body, the normal text in the document. But there are other font sets of fonts that you can choose. So Calibri and Calibri. Let's see, this one is Franklin Gothic for the headers and Franklin Gothic Medium, Franklin Gothic Medium for the headers and Franklin Gothic Book for the body text. This one is Constantia for the headers and Franklin Gothic Book for the body text. Consolus for the headings, Verdana for the body or normal text, and so on. So you could do that. You can also click Customize Fonts, and you can define your own and say, I want font X for the headers and font Y for the rest of the text. Paragraph spacing is defined for each one. Effects are things like, basically this is for things like shapes and other types of objects pictures as well sometimes. You can add different effects, kind of like, this is kind of a 3D pop effect. There's a sort of grungy look. This one's called Milk Glass, kind of like a glassy, glossy shine. Top shadows, so there are shadows above the shapes, whatever you might want there. You also have, now be careful about this, you also have a button here that says set as default. So if you choose a style set, and a theme, and you're like, I really like this, I want all my documents to look like this from now on, or at least most of them, then you can click set as default. And the next time you open Word, those options will already be selected. If you choose one for a particular document and then you save changes to that document, then those preferences will also be saved. So if you open that document again, you'll still have those options, those options will still be set for you. So if you're like, oh, the next time I open this document, I want that, those are the things that I want to see, then don't worry about the, then just save it with the document. Only if you're like, I want most of my documents to look this way, should you use that set as default. So, so using these tools, you can basically, you can create a document that looks exactly the way you want it to look, and you can keep it consistent, which makes a big difference. If you're using, if you're using a lot of cool styles and you've got headings and you've got, a different font for the body and things like that, but you aren't consistent about it, then it's going to look bad. It's going to be amateurish looking. But if you define that sort of visual language for your document and you're consistent about it, then it's going to look super slick and professional. And, your readers are going to thank you. And, and it's going to go a long way towards making your document have the maximum impact. So that's pretty much it for the style sets and themes. What questions do y'all have for me about that before we shift gears here? All right, great. Well, somebody's got a question. All right, is consistency along the document in terms of titles and subtitles important when creating a table of content in your work? So if you're creating a table of contents, I mean, you want the table of contents to reflect the actual content. So like if you've got, if you're using some, if you're using kind of section headings and subsections and stuff like that, you want the table of contents to reflect that. I'll show you really quickly how the table of contents, the automatic table of contents works, because it's pretty useful. So let's see. Okay, I'm just going to go back to home, normal. Okay, I'm going to pop in a, I'm going to put in a, probably there. I'm going to put in a page break really quick so that, so it's on the next page. Here we go, page break, excellent. Okay, so, all right, so I've got this blank page, and, presumably on this blank page, since it's got the title, I want a table of contents here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over, click on the References tab, and click Table of Contents. That'll give me a little drop-down menu where I have 3 options: Automatic Table 1, Automatic Table 2, or Manual Table. So if you want to have a table of contents, but you want to create it from scratch, then manual table is your ticket. But automatic table 1 and automatic table 2 will automatically generate it for you. So that seems more helpful to me. As far as I know, the only difference between these two is one says contents and one says table of contents, which I'm assuming you can change. Yeah. So I'll just choose automatic table 1. What it does is exactly this. Let's turn those formatting marks off because it's confusing things. Okay, cool. So it generates this based on the names of my headings and subheadings. Now, there's one trick to this. If I change the name of a heading and I go back up to my table of contents, you'll notice that has not changed yet. In order to get it consistent with the names of my sections, but also the placement of them in terms of what page they're on and stuff like that, I have to update the table of contents. So I'll click Update Table of Contents. There's Update Page Numbers Only or Update Entire Table. I'm going to do the latter. And now it's updated to match the content of my document. So, and of course, when Word generates a table of contents for you automatically, it's also going to make it consistent with the styles and, with your styles as well. So, it uses the same heading style. In this case, it's added a little one table of contents heading, but it's going to use basically the same style for the heading of the table and for the text inside it. You can even, if you want to go to one of these sections, hold Control and click on it, and it'll scroll down. It's pretty cool. You got it. All right. Well, if y'all think of any other questions about that, it's not too late. Go ahead and get them there in the comments or in the chat, and we will we'll tackle them. But for now, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about collaboration and review. So when you're working with a document, sometimes you'll be working on a document with other people. Back in the day at one of my previous jobs, I used to need to write letters to customers occasionally, and those letters had to be reviewed by our legal department before they would go out. Excuse me. So when that happened, I would write up a draft of the letter and I would send it to the legal department, who would then edit it. And that way they could make sure that we weren't making any statements that could get us in trouble in terms of liability, things like that. And the way that they would do that is, well, it's the things that I'm about to show you right now. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the Review tab up here at the top. We're going to stick with this document just to make things easy. When I click on the Review tab, you'll notice I get a bunch of different options here. There's the editor, which basically accesses spell check and the sort of grammar check. You'll notice at least in newer versions of Word, you'll get this kind of double underline where there's like a suggestion of a grammatical suggestion that you might want to take into account. These little dashed lines here tell me, like, there may be some slight redundancy here. I could trim out like really or I could trim out the really and just say common, or those sorts of things. So there's a lot of little there are some editorial suggestions there. Anything that's underlined with a squiggly red line, Word thinks is could be a misspelled word. Now in this case, it's like the scientific, like right here, it's the scientific name of a particular plant. If I right click on that, then I've got a few options here. I can do add to dictionary, which when I do that, if I were to spell this word again in another document, or in this document, of course, it won't be counted as a misspelled word, which is kind of handy, particularly if you say you have a name that's spelled a little unusually, or you know, or or you know, your company's name is like a common word, but slightly, you know, slightly misspelled on purpose, things like that. You can add it to the dictionary, and then Word won't be constantly like dinging you for misspelling something. There's also ignore all. If I click on that, then what it's going to do is just in this document, it won't highlight it as a misspelled word. So that's handy. So anyway, if I'm working with other people, then let's say that I have received this document from someone else who wants me to edit it. There are a couple of different sets of tools at my disposal. And the first one is comments. So if I have a general suggestion, or if there's a section of the document where I'm like, I don't know about this, or maybe you need to make this tweak or whatever, I can say, you know, I can add a comment to indicate that. So without necessarily like writing exactly what I want it to be, because they're the author, I'm not. So I don't want to write their document for them, but I do want to give some feedback. So for example, I'll select this paragraph right here, and I'll say like, and I'll click new comment up here at the top. When I do that, it kind of highlights it in reddish, pinkish, and it gives me a little box over to the side here that has my name, says when I wrote the comment. And so I can say something like, you know, do we really need this paragraph? And then I can continue on my way editing as normal. As long as I have this show comments button on, if I turn it off, then that'll disappear. Although I have a little speech bubble here to tell me, hey, there's a comment here in the document. And if I click on that, it'll show it. If I click show comments, though, it'll have there's a little separating line. This is the edge of the page, and then out to the side is this comment. So I can, so that the person I'm editing for can see exactly what I said. Now, if they are going back and forth with me a little bit, you know, they can click reply and they can say it's important because blah, 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 or whatever. And then they can send it back to me. They could also click resolve if they've sort of taken my feedback under advisement, or maybe they've deleted the paragraph that I didn't think should be there, or maybe they've made some edits that make it seem more essential or flow better in the document. They can click resolve, and then the comment is still there, but now it's considered to be like a closed issue that we've, you know, that's been dealt with. Let's add another. So I'll click down here, new comment. There we go. Okay, I've got something there. All right, I'll select this sentence and we'll add one more comment there. Cool. Okay. So I now have 3 comments. One of them's resolved here, and 2 are sort of outstanding. I can use the buttons up here to navigate. So there's a previous and a next. If I click wherever my cursor is, if I click previous, it'll take me back to wherever the last comment is. There it is. If I hit next, it takes me down and to you know, over here to this one, and so on and so forth. So I can kind of move around and do whatever needs to be, or you know, so I can kind of click around and take the comments one by one, essentially. If I'm done and I really don't need a comment, or if I created a comment in a document, but then I'm like, I don't need that comment there, I can right click on it and click delete comment, or I can click on it, select it down here and hit delete up at the top. I even have a delete all comments in document in the drop down here. So comments are a really good way to provide sort of more general feedback or structural feedback, things that are more overall editing and not what you might consider copy editing. For those types of things where it's like, oh, you left out a comma or something like that, or let's remove this word, or let's change this sentence around. For those types of things, there's another tool, and that's track changes. So change tracking here. If I click on the icon for track changes, then it's going to turn change tracking on. If I click the drop-down menu, then I can click track changes there to turn it on. And I can lock down tracking so that if I want to make sure nobody makes changes without my being able to track them, then I can add a password to the to change tracking, and that way I can make sure it stays on, basically, or that only authorized people can turn it off. Once change tracking is on, nothing's going to happen right away. But let's say I come down here and I find, okay, due to various differences in elevation, climatic control conditions, and other factors, blah, blah, blah. So Word is suggesting that we rephrase this a little bit to make it more concise. So what they want me to do probably is get rid of the word various. So if I come in here, I'll just I'll select that and hit backspace to delete it. And you'll notice I get a tiny little red mark over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to close this navigation pane, by the way. We don't need that anymore. So I've got the little red mark over on the side here. When I click on that, you'll notice when I hover over it, it says show tracked changes. When I click on it, it will change the look just slightly. So now you'll see the word various and the space immediately after that are crossed out here. I deleted those. And so when I'm showing the tracked changes by clicking on the little line, that's going to show essentially like what edits I've made. So let's see. Let's make some edits. Okay. Let's see what else. Let's get rid of an item here. All right. All right. Let's see. All right, and let's delete a sentence somewhere. And maybe capitalize something. Let's say that we decide Ranger is specifically referring to a job title. I'll go ahead and change this lowercase r to a capital R there. Okay, cool. All right. So as I scroll through this, you'll see everywhere that I made an edit, there's a little red line here. And I can click on any of those to show the edits in the document that were made after change tracking was turned on. Now, any change that was made before change tracking was turned on doesn't count for this. So like when I changed the styles or when I added that additional section at the end down here, none of those changes are marked. That looks like it might be, but it's actually just because I turned it red. None of those changes are tracked because that was before change tracking was turned on. If I turn change tracking off, then those will not be tracked. Those changes will not be tracked either. But down here, I have photography is encouraged in all of the national parks and monuments by asking a ranger, and that's, so lowercase ranger is crossed out, capitalized ranger is added in. This sentence that I deleted, if change tracking is turned off, then you don't even notice it's there. Or if you're not looking at the changes or the markup, as they say, then you won't even see that there's a sentence missing. But once you click on that, it expands out and you see the edits that were made. Okay, this was crossed out, and you'll notice each of these, the original numbering is crossed out and the new numbering is added in. Down here, we've got, excuse me, we've got 5, the super duper desert, it's awesome, etc. So, let's say now that I'm the original author of the document. I've gotten this back from my editor, and they've gone through and they've made some changes and they've put in some comments. Now I want to look through this, and I want to make any tweaks that I need to make before I send it on to whoever's going to receive it or publish it or whatever the case may be. Okay, so this comment, I've got that. I'll go ahead and mark resolve on that. I'll rephrase that. So I'll make a change here. Actually, you see, although, there we go. Okay, so I made a change, and again, the change tracking is there. I'll resolve that one. I'm just scrolling through and looking for changes, but you can also do next and previous here as well. So you'll notice this when I hit previous and next up here, it's actually going to take me through comments and tracked changes as well. So there's a tracked change, but I made that one. So we'll skip over that for a moment. There's a comment. And next, okay. Here we go. Due to various differences. So that was removed by my editor, and I'm cool with that. So what I'm going to do is click accept. When I do that, it's no longer marked as a tracked change. Now it's just an official accepted part of the document. So I've accepted that change as, as necessary and useful, and that's now part of the final document. This, however, is not a real desert, of course. So I'm going to click reject. And what that's going to do is remove that tracked change, the addition of the super duper desert or whatever it was, and set it back the way it was. I will accept this change. Let's go ahead and keep 2 rigidly here. So I'll reject this change. Let's see, we do want a comma there. And let's accept as and the addition, or removal of as and the addition of since. And then down here, this sentence was removed. Let's reject that. Now we're good. And we'll accept those 2 changes. You'll notice, by the way, I only made 2, I only made 1 change down at the very bottom here, where it was talking about the rangers. Oh yeah, by asking a ranger, there it is. So all I did was change the lowercase r to a capital R, but Word indicated that as 2 separate changes. The removal of lowercase r ranger and the addition of capital R ranger. And so I had to accept or reject each of those edits individually. So just bear that in mind. Even if you only make 1 change, in a sense, technically what I did was 2 things. I removed lowercase r ranger and I added capitalized ranger to the document. Once I'm done, or if I'll go ahead and up here at the top, the accept and reject buttons, if I click on the drop-down arrow, there's accept and move to next, accept all changes, and stop tracking. There's also reject and move to next, reject all changes, and stop tracking. So I'll go ahead and actually hit accept all changes and stop tracking. So anything that's left over that's a change that was made that was not accepted is now accepted. You'll notice track changes is turned off. So we're good to go on that. So that's a really good way to, those tools, the comments and change tracking, are really good ways to collaborate with other folks, to edit for them, to have them edit for you, or to write a document together. And that, that makes things a lot more efficient. I've definitely sent an email before where it's like, where I've got a big old list of like, okay, on page 6, you said this, maybe you should say this instead. And that eliminates all of that, which is just a real lifesaver. I got a question from someone. Will we be able to review this class in Tuesday's class again? Yes. I mentioned this at the beginning, but some folks might not have been here quite yet. But this is streaming right now to Facebook and YouTube, in addition to hosting the class here on Zoom. So if you go to YouTube, is probably the best bet. If you go to the CAL's YouTube channel, you'll be able to find the recorded version anytime. So yeah, feel free to review it at any point. The example files will still be there. So if you didn't download them today, you can, there'll be a link in the comments or in the, in the description of the YouTube video as well. So yeah, for sure, you will be able to watch it again anytime. All right, so that's all in terms of collaboration and review. We've got one more topic to dig into in our last little bit here. Are there any questions from anybody about that before we move into the final section here? All right. Again, if you do have anything that you just weren't able to get typed in time, or if something occurs to you in the next few minutes, go ahead and send it and we'll tackle it. All right. I'm going to change my screen share for just a moment. I'm going to switch back to my Windows File Explorer. And back in the folder of example files here, I'm going to open the document called mailmerge.docx by double-clicking on that. And that'll open a new Word window. I'm going to have to move that into the right spot. And change which window I'm sharing again. All right, there we go. Excellent. Okay, so this mail merge document is this is going to be what we'll work on for the remainder of class today. We're going to talk about mail merges. First of all, I'm going to click Enable Editing up at the top, just like I did before. If you don't have that message, don't worry about it. But if you do, just click Enable Editing and it's good to go. So this little example file is a letter to customers who placed an order with our fake company this year. And by this year, in the example file, it does mean 2020. So, obviously it's a different year now, but this is, as far as this letter is concerned, it's 2020 in this particular example. what we're going to be trying to do is, as I mentioned before, create a personalized version of this letter for each recipient. We're going to be sending it out to a lot of people, and so we want to make sure that that they get a more personalized version that says, like, instead of "dear customer," "dear," and then their actual human name, and stuff like that. So to do that, we're going to do a mail merge. I'm going to come up here to the top and click on mailings. And then under the mailings tab here in the ribbon, you've got a bunch of options. If you click on start mail merge, you'll notice letters is already selected here actually. So you don't actually have to do anything with that. It's kind of already assuming that it's going to be a letter. Maybe based on the format, I'm not sure. But I'm going to click select recipients, and I'm going to click use an existing list. Now, just to kind of set the stage here, what we're looking for in general when we do a mail merge is we need to have a we need to have a list of, or we need to have a list of the people who are going to be receiving the document. We do have the option to type a new list. So if you've got a list on paper and you're needing to enter it in, excuse me, you can type a new list directly into Word. Generally speaking, though, you're probably going to be using something like a spreadsheet, maybe something that you exported from a database, or if you just have an Excel file or whatever. And that's where we use an existing list. In this case, we do have an Excel file that was included with the example files. So I'll click use an existing list. It's going to open up my Windows or my little file browser here. Now, one thing about this, you'll notice I have, it starts me out in kind of a weird folder that I don't normally access, which is this PC, OSC, that's my hard drive, users, the username on my computer, documents, and then my data sources. Inside this my data sources folder, there are two little weird like placeholder files. And basically what these files do is they allow you to connect to online databases and pull in information directly from them and things like that. So so we're not going to do that. That's way beyond the scope of this class. But I do want to point out, like, you don't even necessarily have to have a file on your computer. You just need access to the appropriate database that has the information that you need. And Word might at least be able to pull it in. Okay, so it starts in that, but we don't want that. What I'm going to do instead is click on desktop and then find my folder, Word Part 2 example files. And then there's an Excel file called customerorders.xlsx. And when I click on that, it is giving me a little preview over here as well. Your computer, depending on its settings, may or may not do that, but that's that's a possibility. I'll click open. When I do that, it's going to ask me what set of data inside of my Excel file I want to use. So there's a hidden sheet inside of that called conditional that I used when I was creating this file initially. It was for an Excel class, and I had an example about what we call conditional formatting. So that's why that's there. We're going to skip over that. We're going to skip over this. What we want is this in apostrophes, or what we call single quotes, order list $. So that's the order list sheet that has the information we need. And then there's a checkbox here. First row of data contains column headers, which it does in this Excel file. So I'm going to click OK. I'll go ahead and show you what this file looks like, just so that you know. Hang on. Okay. All right, so in this file, just briefly, you'll see we've got our order number, the date the order was placed, the amount that the order cost the customer, the number of items that were sold, street address, city, state and province, zip code, country, their first and last name, their email address, their phone number. All those things are fake, by the way. And finally, the salesperson in the company who processed the order with them. So what we're going to do here with this information is we're going to combine that into our Word document. Let me switch back to Word. Cool, there it is. Okay, great. So we're going to switch back to our Word document, and now that we've got that all selected, we're going to start our process here. So the first thing we want to do is up here at the top, there's this kind of stand-in address. This is meant to stand in for the address of the customer. So I'm going to select this. Now I have to be a little careful. You'll notice if I move my mouse in kind of just the wrong way, it will give me this pointer with the 4 arrows up, down, left, and right. And that and if I click right now, what it's going to do is start to move this little graphic around. What I want to do is just make sure my mouse looks like this, the little eye-looking pointer, and I'll select this address, and I'll just press backspace on my keyboard to remove it. Then I'll press enter to move the date back down to where it needs to be. And now, with my cursor on this blank line where the address used to be, I'm going to click Address Block up at the top. That's in the Mailings tab. If you switch tabs at any point, just get back to the Mailings tab. That's where we'll be. So it says Insert Address Block. Insert recipient's name in this format, and it shows us the format. So if we had someone, theoretically, if we had someone named Joshua Randall Jr. on our list, then that's kind of what it would show. And we're getting a bunch of different variants of Joshua's name, Joshua and Cynthia, the Randall family and all that kind of stuff. So whatever format is best for you, select that. And obviously you need that information in there. So just bear that in mind. If you don't have middle initials, this one's not going to do you any good. Insert postal address. You've got 3 different options here. The one that I usually choose is only include the country/region if different than United States, because that's where I'm located. But you can always or never include it as well. Format address according to the destination, country, or region. That just makes sense. I can't see any reason to uncheck that unless you want your letters to be less likely to be delivered. And then over here is a preview. And here we see there's a problem. We've got this Asia Fikes as the recipient here, but all we have is the city name and the zip code, nothing else. So that's a problem. To fix that, what I'm going to do is come down here where it says Match Fields. When I click on that, it's going to show me a list of, it says required for address block. And then over here, it's got drop-down menus. So it identified the column that had my customer's first names in it as first. The column with the header last, it identified as last. Great. Suffix, we don't have that. Company, we don't have that. Address 1, when I click on the drop-down menu, if I go down here, the address 1 column in my Excel file is labeled street, as in street address. So if I click on that, that's our address 1 column. Address 2, we don't have anything for that. City, we've got city identified. State, not matched. So that's part of the problem too. I'll click on that and I'll come down here and find state/province. And for some reason there's a hash mark. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the one we want. And zip and country it correctly identified. Further down here, it identified the phone as business phone. That seems fine. And it identified the email addresses correctly. So we're good. So all of that looks good. Now, if this is a file I'm going to be using a lot, then I could check this box that says, remember this matching for this set of data sources on this computer. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be teaching this class again at some point, and I'll need to show folks this process. So I'll click OK. And now I have it. Azia Fikes, 3511 Old Ramp, which is the street address. And then that's Falcon Crest, Kentucky, 41837. When I click OK, then I get a little, what's called a merge tag right here. This is a little placeholder that says there's information that's coming from our data source that's going to be merged in this spot. In this case, we'll have an address block there. Continuing onward, we're going to leave this date alone for now, although you can add in a date here. It's like a whole thing. We're not going to deal with it right now. The next thing that we want to do is the greeting line. Right now we have dear customer. That's not great, pretty impersonal. So I'm going to backspace to get rid of that. And I'm going to click greeting line right here to insert the greeting line merge tag right here. And it pops up, it says insert greeting line. I can choose a format for my greeting. I can say dear, to, or none. Then we can choose a name format again. So in this case, again, I'll just leave it as it is. And then we can choose whether to end the greeting line with a comma, a colon, or nothing. So all of this is fine. Dear Joshua Randall Jr., comma. And then there's a greeting line for invalid recipient names. Dear sir or madam, to whom it may concern, or none. And then again, I can see a preview. If I want to see more people from my data set, just to make sure everything's working properly for real, then I can use these arrow buttons right here to go through Dear Acton Roads, etc. And again, if my data hasn't been correctly identified, I have a match fields button here, which works the same as in the address block. I'll click OK. And now we have our greeting line merge tag right there. Okay, great. So another thing that I want to do is I want to come over here and actually let's go ahead and do this insert merge field. I'm going to use that down here at the bottom. You'll notice it says sincerely Jojo, your Splat Inc. sales associate. Jojo's not one of our real fake sales associates. So I'm going to get rid of that name and I'm going to insert, I'm going to click on the drop down arrow underneath or where it says insert merge field. When the menu opens up, I'll see a list of all of the columns that have data and a couple of the ones that don't for some reason in my data source. And I'm going to find salesperson right here and click on that. And that's going to fill in the salesperson's name from my data source. So in addition to people's kind of the information that was included with their order, I also had the salesperson who sold them the order as one of the columns there. So that'll fill that person's name in. Cool. Okay. So there are a couple more things we can do with our mail merge here. So the letter says, we're glad you become a customer with us this year. We'd love to offer you $20 off your next order with us. Just use the offer code US20 on our website when placing your order. So the first thing, we're glad you become a customer with us this year. We have in our data set orders from 2020 and orders from at least 2019 and maybe previous years. What we need to do then is sort through our orders so that, or we need to essentially weed out customers who this letter doesn't apply to. So if the person didn't become a customer with us this year, we don't want them to be included with this. So what I'm going to do is come up to rules here at the top, click on that drop-down menu, and we'll say skip record if. Under the field name is another name for the column in our data set. So under the field name, we're going to look at date. So I'll click that. Comparison. For comparison, we're going to go, we have equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, is blank or is not blank. So in this case, we're going to go, so we're skipping the record if, we'll go less than, and then compare to, and we're just going to put the date in there. So 1/1/2020, like so. So if the date is less than 1/1/2020, in other words, if it's a 2019 or earlier order, we're going to skip that record. In other words, we're not going to generate a version of the letter for them. Once I've done that, I'll click OK. And now you'll notice I have a merge tag here, skip record if ... That's going to be invisible to the customer. Nothing's going to be filled in that spot. But putting it next to the sentence where it says, we're glad you've become a customer with us this year, might, if we save this and come back later, it might give us a clue, oh, that's right, we're skipping that particular person if their order is from before 2020. Finally, one last thing we're going to do in terms of before we finalize our merge here, is we're going to add one more rule. Right here it says, we'd love to offer you $20 off your next order with us. Just use the offer code US20 on our website when placing your order. But when you look at the list of people in our data source, you'll notice that some of them are US customers and some of them are Canadian customers. In order to make this, or in order to make sure that, so people who are in the US can get $20 off by using the code US20, but that's not going to work for our Canadian customers. Our Canadian customers, what we want to do instead is give them 25 Canadian dollars off with a different offer code. So here's what I'm going to do to make that happen. I'm going to, first of all, select these two sentences right here with my mouse. And then I'm going to copy that text. So in order to copy the text, there are two ways to go about it. The way that I prefer is to, generally speaking, is to use the keyboard. So I'm going to hold Control, CTRL, in the bottom corner of my keyboard and press, while I'm holding Control, press C, Control C. That will copy the text to what's called my computer's clipboard. And the clipboard basically is sort of an invisible storage space where something that you copy goes or cut goes until you paste it. Copy and paste and cut and paste is what we're using here. Or you can right click and click copy in the menu there. Either way works. But now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here where it's to rules again, click on that and click, let's do if then else. And now we're defining our rule. So what we want to do is just check to see which country the customer is in and give them the appropriate offer code based on that. So first of all, our field name, we're going to look and we're going to find country. And then comparison equal to, that's fine. So if there's so we know we only have US and Canada customers. So we'll just say equal to US. So, and the way I wrote it in the Excel file is just capital U, capital S, no periods or anything else. Down here it says insert this text. Now in this box, you might or might not be able to right click to paste, which we need to paste the text that we copied into this box. So what I'm going to do to paste is I'm going to hold Control, CTRL at the bottom corner of my keyboard again. So I'll hold Control. By the way, if you're on a Mac computer, instead of Control, you'll use Command. It's the one with that weird squiggly, kind of looks like a stove. So hold Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and then press V, Control V. That's going to paste the text directly in here. If it does let you right click, I don't think it will. Yeah, it won't on mine. I don't think it will on anybody's. So hold Control, while holding it, press V. That's the keyboard shortcut for paste. By the way, those two keyboard shortcuts, Control C and Control V, those work for copy and paste respectively in almost any program in all of Windows. Command C and Command V if you're on a Mac. Not just Word. It works in almost everything. So once you know those keyboard shortcuts, you don't have to hunt for copy and paste anymore. That's handy. Okay, so we pasted that in there. I'm going to come down here. It says otherwise insert this text. So if they're not a US customer, we know they're a Canada customer. So I'll hold Control, press V again. We'd love to offer you $20. We're going to say 25 Canadian dollars off your next order with us. Just use the offer code CA25 on our website when placing your order. Then I'll click OK. And now it's replaced the text with the exact same text, but you'll notice when I click on it, it kind of goes gray. So that tells me this is text that's going to be changed, could possibly be changed at least in the mail merge. So let's make sure everything's working properly. What I'm going to do is come up here to the top, and this time I'm going to click on Preview Results. When I do that, it generates a new version of my letter that that has all of the, essentially has all the merge tags filled in. So Acton Roads, there's Acton Roads address. They're in Alaska. Dear Acton Roads, we're glad you become a customer with us this year. We'd love to offer you $20 off. And then sincerely, Madeline, which is the sales associate that sold Acton their order. If I click through some more, let's find a Canada one. Here we go. All right, I found a Canada one, Woohoo, Newfoundland, and then their zip code. And you'll notice because they're a Canada customer, it added the country code to the end of the address. Dear Amador Simoes, we're glad you become a customer with us this year. We'd love to offer you $25 off your next order with us. Just use the offer code CA25 on our website when placing your order. Sincerely, Delma, your Splat Inc. sales associate. So if I wanted to be a little fussy, I could go in and I could change the spacing here so that it would look right, but we're not going to fool with that right now. And other than that, this looks good. So if I'm done, I would click on Finish and Merge, and I have I have another option. So you can do this with emails as well. If you use the email option, you have to use the desktop version of Microsoft Outlook. So if you don't use that on your computer, then doing a mail merge for emails is not going to work. But you can do that if you use the desktop version of Outlook. It's kind of clunky. I use the desktop version of Outlook, and I don't love this. So I don't necessarily recommend it, but in a pinch, you know, if you want to do this, you can. There's print documents and there's edit individual documents. So if you click print documents, what's going to happen is it's just going to send all of the merged copies of the document directly to your printer. So you don't have, you know, so you can just do a couple of clicks, excuse me, and then head over to the printer and grab it off there. Super easy. So that's really nice. There's also edit individual documents. What that's going to do, I'm not going to click it, but what that's going to do is it's going to create all of the individualized, essentially like the merged copies of my letter and make them all into one document. That'll be a 40 some odd page Word document. So I'm not going to do that. And it might take some time. I might have to wait on my computer for a few minutes in order for it to sort of generate all of that. But the idea behind that is if there are other ones that you might individually need to tweak, you want to send a little special message to you know, 5 or 6 certain customers, but otherwise have the letter the same, that sort of thing, then that's where you would use edit individual documents, because then you can tweak the ones that you need to tweak, and everything else will be exactly identical. And then from there, you just print it in the usual way using the File tab. And that is mail merges. Sorry we ran a little long this time. Thanks for sticking with me. What questions do y'all have before we wrap this up? All right, I'm not seeing anything so far. If you do have a question after the fact, you can shoot me an email. The email address to use is digital@cals, CALS.org. So digital@cals.org. And I'll be happy to tackle those after the fact. Other than that, thank you so much for joining me for Word. I think most people joined me for both sessions. That's awesome. Hopefully I'll see you again. Like I said, Zoom savvy is what I call the upcoming Zoom class. That's in a week. So hopefully I'll see a lot of y'all at that point. As I said, the example files will stay up, and the recording for this will be on the CALS YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and just search for Central Arkansas Library System, you'll find it there. And I hope that you'll have a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.